everybody in YouTube land. It is me, Tom, and I am on my road trip. It's going quicker than I ever expected, but that's all right. When I left Philadelphia, I went to, I don't even remember what town it was, in North Carolina to sleep over. I was 8 hours from home when I stopped. Worst night ever sleeping in a truck stop. I slept in truck stops last year and never had this issue with noise, but where they had the cars parked, where cars and RVs could park, it's right on the side of the highway, and the entrance and exit to the Pilot's truck stop. So non-stop noise. If I had 4 hours sleep, I was lucky, but that's all right. I woke up the following morning, I drove to Planet Fitness, I got my shower, and I headed into Atlanta. And excuse me, I was not impressed by Atlanta, gotta say. Like, I expected a busy city, because I'm from Philadelphia, and our city is pretty crowded, and we have a lot to do on like every street. We've got restaurants and bars and shopping and, you know, blocks and blocks and blocks and tourist attractions everywhere. Like, now I don't expect that in every city or state that I go to or town, whatever, but I did expect more. And traveling the South, I'm realizing that there really isn't much there. Like, I went to St. Louis, Missouri, and, you know, there was an arch and there was a waterfront park, and that was basically it. Like, I was shocked. And I went to Detroit, Michigan, and I saw a casino. Like, I mean, to give you an example, there was nothing there. So anyway, I go into Atlanta, and I go to the Jimmy Carter's Library Museum, which was really nice. However, you can't get in his library. Like, they show you the boxes of all the paperwork and whatnot, you know, that's in the library, and it's all behind glass, and you can see that. And then there's computer monitors in the front that you can like scroll through to see some paperwork that's boxed up from his presidency. I thought it was going to be an actual library, you know, a real library, and then his archives would be in the library. But no, it's his archives are in the library. And it was a nice museum. It was a nice setup, so I'm glad I got to see that. Beautiful surroundings, gotta say, beautiful surroundings. So I left there, and I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to go to Martin Luther King Jr.'s grave site and memorial and museum. And so I went down to Montgomery, Alabama, and what is this? Oh, it's a Google car. Cool. Anyway, I went down to Montgomery, and I went to the museum. My GPS was taking me to a wrong spot for parking, and I literally had to like park almost 2 blocks away is the parking lot. I was like, are you kidding me? So I drove 2 blocks away to park, and then I went to the museum. And the museum's free, and it was really set up nice, but it was very confusing because there was no beginning and end. And so I was like really confused, and I asked the guy at the desk, I said, where does it start? And he said, well, either, because there was 2 entrances, one on each side, and there was no signs. And he says, well, you start wherever. And I walk in, and it's like the horse-drawn carriage type thing that carried his coffin, and, you know, and the burial information. Okay, fine. And then I went around, and it was all nice. And then I left, walked out, and I went over to the memorial. So that was really beautiful. It really was. And I wanted to go see it because I had went to the Lorraine Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. That's where he was assassinated. And so I really wanted to pay my respects to his gravesite ever since. So I finally got that off my bucket list. And I walked around town. His house is under construction. They're remodeling it. So I couldn't tour the house, but I got to see the outside of it and walk around town. And the town, it's really amazing how they did like his whole memorial setup and whatnot, because the original town is still there around it. It's really neat. And then, you know, in the center of it is his whole memorial and the museum, and then the church. I went into the church and that he preached in, and you know, and then it was like, okay, well, that didn't take me long at all. So I just automatically went to the world of Coca-Cola. I was going to spend 2 days in Atlanta thinking, okay, I'll do all that, and then tomorrow I'll go, well, today technically I would have been in Atlanta doing the world of Coca-Cola, and I would tour the city. But I got done the library and the gravesite, and I was like, all right, I just got to keep moving, because this is how I do my trips. I just keep moving along. So I go ahead and I get in the car, and I just go ahead and I drive to my next stop, and I go to the World Coca-Cola, and I go in, and I expected more. I did expect more. Lots of antiques and rarities, and you know, nostalgia for Coca-Cola. And then they had the tasting room from tasting drinks from around the world that Coke makes. And I did a little bit of that. I'm not into soda, so I did a little bit of that, not a lot at all. I don't even think I filled up a whole cup with the sips that I took of what I did. But anyway, I got done there. I walked out on the streets. I went through the park. It's an Olympic themed park. So I went to that park, and across the street with this humongous Ferris wheel, and apparently inside is an amusement park, or not amusement, games or whatever. I didn't go in, I don't know. But in the center of the city is this ride, and I'm like, okay, so now I'm just going to walk around town and see what else is here. And I'm walking, and I'm like, there's really nothing here. Like, I'm walking, and you know, there's like no stores like to really shop in, like, you know, convenience stores, and I saw maybe 1 or 2 restaurants, and it's a city. I expected more, and again, there's no traffic. I was like, well, where's the traffic? I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I'm used to traffic in a city, and you know, like I said, I go into the South, and like, there's no traffic, and it's just a world of its own. So I was like, well, you know, there's no sense in me staying over, so I might as well just leave. So I drove further. I went into Montgomery. Did I say that already? I went into Montgomery this last night. I slept over at a Planet Fitness. Quieter, better. So woke up first thing, went in, got my shower, and on my way, first thing I did was went into the town of Montgomery, and to see Rosa Parks bus stop, you know, where all that happened, and toured the Capitol. And I didn't do the museum because, like, I'm really not into museums. It's a hit or miss whether I do one or not, because I'm more of the type that wants to sightsee and explore and walk and live the moment of being in each city where I'm traveling to, or town, or wherever. So I didn't do her thingy, but I walked around the town. I did the Capitol, and then I was like, all right, so let's drive to Selma. So I just drove to Selma, Alabama, and oh my God, it's so run down, it's sad. Wow, it's really, really, truly not what I expected. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. But and it was funny because I didn't realize when I drove into Selma that I was going to go over the Edmund Pitman Bridge. Is that what it's called? No. What the hell is it called? Okay, I got the page turned over. So anyway, the bridge, and I first saw the sign of Selma leading up to the bridge, and I was like, oh, well, let me get a picture of the sign. And then all of a sudden, I drove up, closer, and I was like, oh, shit, that's the bridge. So I was able to take pictures as I was driving across it. And then I go ahead and I park, and there's this guy there parked, and he gives me this big spiel about how him and his wife are retired school teachers, and then they sell t-shirts on the bridge, and they give you a little history of the town. And basically the only history he gave me was what we already know about the bridge and the chaos that was occurred there, and why it became famous, so to speak. And then he told me, I should go to the church. I forget what the name of the church was. And I'm like, well, that's already on my plans. And he says, yeah, and if you want something to eat. I'm like, no, I don't, because I already ate, which I didn't. I was just saying that to be polite, kind of. And I was like, excuse me. So at that point, I walked the bridge. I took pictures on the bridge. And that was an experience, just being able to do that. So then I go ahead and I try to walk through the town, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so run down and there's nothing there. And so then I was like, all right, let me go to the church. I go to the church, and it's in the projects, literally. The project homes are right there. And there's a sign outside. To take a tour, you have to call and make an appointment. I was like, are you kidding me? What? But then again, I could see why, because there's really nobody there. And I mean, I only saw 3 other people walking the streets with a camera while I was there, so I wasn't the only one. But apparently there's not a lot of people that go there because there's nothing to do and see it, whatever. And now I'm on my way to Mobile, Alabama. So I'm like, yeah, my trip is going quicker than I thought, but I think maybe when I get done with Mobile, I'll be going, I don't know if I'm staying over in Mobile tonight or whatever, it depends. But then I'm going to Biloxi, Mississippi, and then I'm going into New Orleans for the day, and then I'm going to go to Pensacola, Florida, and head into Florida. And I plan to spend a little bit more time in Florida. I don't know how long. It really depends on the heat and humidity as far as night goes sleeping. And then after that, I'll be coming back home after I leave Florida, and coming up the East Coast. So I don't know. When I do my road trips, I just go with the flow of things, like I go and I see what I want to do, and when I'm done, I go. Like when I walk a town, like I did these towns here and cities, and I didn't see anything else worth seeing, I just get in the car and I go keep driving and go to my next destination. And that's what makes my trips fun, because I'm not wasting any time and I'm not stuck somewhere. Driving, you get to see so much. Oh, this is the first time I ever did this too. When I left home, I decided to put on my GPS on my phone to avoid tolls, and I never did that before, but I calculated it out, and I only added in an hour to my time by doing that, because going through the Chesapeake Bay and Maryland, that's like maybe a 12-hour toll, and then there's other tolls involved in that. So I was like, I want to avoid tolls, and yeah, I'm not in a rush. So again, I put an hour onto my time, which is not a big deal, but I was able to cross the Chesapeake Bay at a different location for free. I haven't paid tolls this whole trip by doing this, and I'm not missing out on anything, because I'm not in a rush. I don't have to get anywhere, so I can take my time. And it's great because, like, I'm going through towns, or I have been going through towns and whatnot, so I'm seeing houses and stores and things off to the side, when I'm not on the interstate driving. It just gives me a little bit more to see, so I'm not, like, stuck on the interstate which is nothing but a road with trees on both sides, and you can't see nothing for miles and miles and miles. So that breaks up the monotony, being able to drive on the back roads to avoid the tolls. So yeah, I think I'm gonna keep doing that. But yeah, so like I said, my trip is going as good as it's going, and I'm doing everything that I planned out to do. And what I do is, like, I decide on like a location where I want to go and sightsee, and then I Google and I see what's there, and then I pinpoint what I want to do, and I attempt to try to do everything that's on there. Now in Selma there was a railroad trolley museum, but when I drove in, it's closed. So I couldn't, that museum I wanted to go to, but it was closed. And when I went to the church, I want to say Ebenezer, but it's not Ebenezer. I don't know what it's called. I don't remember. But anyway, I wanted to tour that church in Selma, but you had to call and make a tour. And I'm like, well, I'm not waiting for a tour. Like, I got to go. So that's what I did. I'm on my road. So with that being said, I'm going to get off of here, and I hope everybody has a great week, and I hope everybody has a good Memorial Day.